Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Face the Truth. This episode is sponsored by WACOM, WACOM.com. I've been keeping busy, which is really good. Did a fun cover last week for the Washington Examiner, a challenging cover, as most of it was made up. I had to use reference, of course, but in order to pull it off, I had to use several different images of men's faces to create this one face. Helmet references and jungle references from several other pics, and then had to make it all work together to create one image. I had a blast working on this one, and overall I'm super happy with how it turned out. Originally I painted the man's face without camouflage makeup, and was asked later if I could add it, so basically I had to paint his face twice. My guest this week has been a friend of mine for quite some time, so this episode is a bit longer than average, but I think you will enjoy hearing a genuine conversation between two friends that are artists. I apologize in advance for some of the noise issues during this podcast. Fred lives in Manhattan, New York, so there's a lot of city noises, and Fred also has a violently noisy chair. Other than a few squeaks here and there, this was a great talk with my pal Fred. Fred is an all-around talented artist. He's pretty much mastered every medium and is amazing with his understanding of color. He does caricature illustration, caricature from life, fine art oil painting, comic books, and so much more. He's also one of the most down-to-earth and humble people that I am proud to say is my friend. Please welcome the one and only Mr. Fred Harper.
Absolutely. It's so awesome. Really? I love it.
It's always one of those things where you're trying to meditate. Like I had to meditate when I was little Tibetan bowls that you rub and make sense. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna meditate, and then I realized very quickly, in Manhattan, you're not going to do that, so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to meditate. I'm like, okay.
Bitch.
Yeah, exactly. Why do I know what this person has been doing yesterday? It's like, so I end up not meditating and then being a very stressed out, angry person as I'm walking around like, but no, I don't really do that. But I imagine I would.
Do you have Tourette's yet?
I think I came with Tourette's. Yeah, I started out with Tourette's, and then I've been building on that ever since. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So,
well,
wait, is there a flag? We should have like a
flag.
Because
hey, we're rolling.
Going. Yeah,
we're rolling, and
okay.
Yeah, but I like to just surprise my guests and try to get some. No,
but sooner I would have been on the toilet. So yeah,
that would have been fine.
Yeah,
but thanks for doing this, man. This is awesome. I love doing this with people that are actually my friends because it's a lot more just casual and relaxed. But anyways, you've been a friend of mine for a while now. I was trying to think about it. It's been at least close to between 12 and 15 years or something like that.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
About 15. Yeah.
Yeah, and I first when we first met, I was like this guy trying to figure out how to do anything. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to get into illustration or how to do anything. And I would get these. I used to work for a magazine doing graphic design stuff, and we would get these illustration directory books, and your work was in it, and a bunch of artists. But I would always cut your work out, and I would tape it on my wall. Like I remember a Nicolas Cage. That Nicolas Cage you did as Superman.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and I used to just had them all over my wall, and so you were kind of like an art hero for me. And I remember this is way before there was Facebook or anything like that. And I found your email somewhere, and I just emailed you, and I sent you some of my work, and you were right away the coolest dude ever. You're just like, oh man, cool work, and then you. I barely even knew you, and you recommended me to an art director at the Wall Street Journal, right away. So I was like, dude, this guy is awesome.
Yeah. For what it's worth, what you can do. But you had professional looking work when you came to me already. So I was like, I'm trying to help people, and you create that kind of movement, where you're like, I'd rather help people than try to squash people, because I would like people to help me when I'm down. and then like your stuff was already like on a professional level. I'm like, I didn't know how fast you were or slow or whatever, but I'm like, well, they'll give you the deadline, and then you know what you can do, And
oh yeah. So. No, but I really appreciated that. That was awesome. And the weird thing too is we also had another connection that I wasn't aware of at the time, is through the NCN at the time, the Caricature organization.
I dabble in that.
Yeah, because I didn't realize that you had known a lot of those people as well, and so it was like it was kind of like a we had friends, mutual friends that we didn't even know at the time too. Yeah. But that's one thing.
Caricature world's a really small.
Oh world.
Yeah. Like everybody kind of knows each other. So.
But at that time it was weird. It was weird at that time because again there was no Facebook, and so online.
MySpace.
Yeah, I never had that.
Live journal. I had that.
Yeah. but it was hard to get connected to people back then.
Yeah. Very.
So, but what I wanted to ask you, because I've never actually talked to you about this, because ever since we did meet then, we've become friends, and I've stayed at your place many times, and we've hung out a lot. We've gone places. We've gone to the convention together. We've done lots of fun things, and it's the best times too is just hanging out in New York. Like you always take me to some cool place to like smoke some hookah or.
Right. Well, you took me to the coolest one. Well, actually, when Corey was in town and you had that.
Oh yeah.
That was like I'm like, why am I standing next to Angelina Jolie? Holy shit! I know who that is. And she looks just like her pictures. I'm like, but I don't know if you saw her that night, but because you were it was like your night, and that was awesome.
To be honest, I don't remember much of that night.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. It was.
I have some. But like, what I was curious about, because I've never talked to you about this, is, like, what was young Fred like? Were you always an artist? Like, when did you start getting into drawing and everything?
Oh, geez, when was it? Yeah, I started. Yeah, when I was like 5 years old, I remember drawing the little plastic dinosaurs in kindergarten class. And they'd be like, you're okay, it's drawing time. They were just happy that the kids weren't like tearing the walls down, right? Like taking care of those little maniacs. And I was like, we all drew on the same level, Mm-hmm. It was like everybody was about as good as each other because we could barely hold like a pencil, And then we would do these like little drawings, and then it became like, well, let's make this one eating this one, and then we'd put the two plastic things together, and then I had a friend that was a pyromaniac, and so he tried to melt them together, and he'd get his dad's torch or something or matches and try to melt them together, and it was always a mess, and we'd always burn ourselves. And well, he burned himself. I didn't have the pyro in me to do that. So we ended up doing, I was drawing cartoons of dinosaurs, and then it's like, of course, I'm like, well, I'm gonna make guts fly out of mine, and so it was the first time I was trying to do like storytelling, and started there, and then I just never stopped, like everybody else quit drawing after like first or second grade, and nobody told me to stop, so I didn't, and next thing you know, it's sixth grade, and I'm the only artist in school, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's the weird art kid, but I was also on the wrestling team, because my dad was a wrestling coach, and I've been, I started wrestling when I was like 2. That's when my dad started teaching me moves, so now I'm like, so I'm on the wrestling team, so I'm in the athlete genre, the jocks, and this is the mid 70s, so I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm a jock and I'm an artist, but then the two things didn't get along, I got along fine with them myself, but like people didn't like that I was an artist, not outright, but they just thought the odd behavior that an artist will have because you're observing the world in a different way, it creates a conflict with people that are used to like consistency, where it's like an artist will suddenly see something, you're like, oh, what's that? Yeah, and you're like off in that direction, like, because like I just saw a color, and they're like, well, that's weird. Let's beat him up, So you end up, But the nice thing for me is I was on the wrestling team. Everybody was still afraid of me. Yeah, so they're like, no, don't beat him up because he's on the wrestling team. He might kick our ass, But we really do want, they left that to the other wrestlers. I got like when ninth grade, I also had a problem of being a ball buster, but I was also I wrestled at like 105, 112 pounds, So I had the mouth of a 300-pound like ball buster, and so I would get the heavyweights pissed off at me, and I got so my ninth grade. The initiation was basically the entire wrestling team would like go, oh, the new kid. Entire team would grab the guy, hold him down, and then two guys would take turns doing a drum roll on your stomach. It was the pink belly, is what they called it.
Oh yeah.
And I got 3 of them that year because everybody was like, that kid won't shut up. Let's get him again, because it was, I guess it was intended to like knock that young person down, the new guy, and so that the seniors could rule the roast. They were the ones that would be the source of all the ball busting. They were the ones that ran everything. And then if a new kid came in, then they were like, well, we have to teach him where his place is, and I couldn't. I was a slow learner, so yeah.
So is this where your caricature stuff comes in, and you start?
That's
drawing these guys like.
Yeah, because I didn't fit in. The jocks didn't like me because I was too weird, and then I didn't know any other artists, and the other artists that I did know were also introverts, and they weren't too socially integrated either. And I stuttered at that point. I don't know. I stuttered between like second grade and about ninth grade. I just had a real speech problem, and I felt awkward talking to anybody. And so ninth grade, I think it was 10th grade. I'm in a math class, and this girl who was one of the popular girls that the jocks liked fell asleep next to me in homeroom, and she was like she's like really out, like drool coming out, and like she's like and I'm like, I was just repulsed, because I'm like, ugh, and I had to draw this, so I drew this picture, and it was my first really wicked kind of caricature, because I wasn't trying to do it realistic. I was just more of an emotional drawing, but it also looked like her, and I had her drooling, and I was like, oh, okay, I got that out of my system. And then one of the kids on the wrestling team saw it, and he goes, and he was always nice to me, so I kind of trusted him. And he goes, oh, can I borrow that? And I go, I don't know why, but I was just happy that this older, popular kid was talking to me. And I was like, yeah, here, and he gave it, he took it, and then he wrote, he drew, or I don't know if he did or somebody drew like legs coming out of her, and then wrote that she was a whore or something. I forget exactly, something to that effect. Then put it in the bathroom, in the women's room, and I didn't know this. I didn't know he was going to do this. I didn't know, and then it must have been my junior year, because I was in the one high school, I'm sitting there waiting for English class at lunchtime, after lunch, and I'm just sitting on the floor waiting for the teacher to arrive, and I got my books with me, and at that time I had given up on dress. I just wore a trench coat everywhere. I found I was in a hardware store, and I found a smock, like a canvas smock. It was like a white canvas smock that I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna get that dirty, that's eventually gonna be gray, and it was, I was just like, I had my smock on, I had my books, I was, I wasn't drawing anything at that moment, and then all of a sudden these two really, at the time I weighed about 120, and at that time these two big football player guys, like just one on each foot, grabbed me and started running down the hall with me. I'm like, hey, and I wasn't on the wrestling team at this point, but I still had people just left me alone, but these guys didn't care. They're like, we outweigh this kid by like we each outweigh him by 100 pounds easily. So like. Yeah. And I'm like, it looked very comical. And at first I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, this is funny, but like, this is starting to get serious. We're heading towards stairs, and and then they tried to go down the stairs with me. And I managed to hold on to one of the railings at the top of the stairs. And now it's a tug of war. I'm holding on to the railing, and then I got these two guys pulling down on me to go down the stairs, and I'm like, hey, this is okay, you made your point, I'm trying to like talk my way out of this, but fortunately a teacher started coming up the stairs and they let go of me, which made me crash down, and like, boom, I landed on the stairs. And then they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, they're trying to kill me, and he's like, you kids, it was like that, it was like, this is, I want to say it was probably like 82, 1982, so it's still that 70s mentality, they're like, let those kids beat each other up, as long as they don't, like, so I always just like, okay, well, I guess there's no consequences here. These guys were just trying to kill me. That
happened to me. That happened to me in high school. Yeah. One time I think I was a senior in high school, and it was my birthday, and my girlfriend at the time wanted to take me out for lunch, and there was like a pizza place like really close walking distance. I think it was called the Godfather Pizza or something like that. And
I'm hungry.
So my obsession with caricature at the time got me in trouble because I'm sitting in this restaurant. It's my birthday. I'm having a great time, and there's this huge like painting or poster on the wall of their character, and he's got this just monster nose. And of course, I noticed that, and I go, look at the size of that guy's nose. Well, underneath that poster was like the football team, and one of the guys with a Napoleon complex happens to have a huge nose. He's
he's
small.
Hearing, apparently.
Oh yeah, he heard me. It was the smallest football player too. He was a small guy, but he was just like he's got the Napoleon thing, like he's got to defend himself, and I'm not little, and he so they didn't say anything to me in the restaurant. As I leave the restaurant, they're just all waiting for me, the entire football team.
Shit. There you go.
And he's like, what'd you say about my nose and all this kind of stuff? And I'm like, I was so confused. And then I was like, oh, no, you guys got it all wrong. I was talking about this picture in there. You see, I like to draw silly pictures. And that was just really inspiring to me. And I have nothing against you guys. You guys are great. And they're like, I'm gonna fucking kill you and all this stuff. And I was like, no. I really, why do you want? We're friends. I don't even know you. Like, I was trying to talk my way out of it. It didn't work because I just started walking back to school. I got shoved down like 2 times, and both of my knees, the jeans on my knees were ripped open. My knees are all bloody and everything. And that was a start of basically jock abuse for like the next couple months. Like they just wouldn't leave me alone. So I definitely relate.
They don't. There's all of the guys on the football team that at my high school seem to just filter into like the military or it was interesting because like what I found about like being on the wrestling team, like I was like, I wasn't a team player, wrestling isn't a team sport really, but they put everybody on a team just because that's the format for high school. And so like it's more of an individual, like you against another person, and whereas football is more team oriented, and people that are team oriented tend to fit in better with like a corporate environment, because like, oh, we're all part of the same firm or accounting or whatever kind of thing. And I've always been, it's always been fascinating, like to see who the entrepreneur is that like what sport did you do in high school if you did one? I mean, it isn't like a prerequisite, but like because I've met people that were on the football team that start businesses, but more often than not, I'm like, oh, I was on the fencing team. That's an individual sport, or tennis or the golf. Like I met a guy that recently, he's a big guy. Like he must, if you look at him, he's like, he's overweight, but he's also an opera singer, and he's he has this amazing voice. Works at the Apple store, and he's like, oh, I was almost a professional golfer. And I was like, no way, because I couldn't imagine this.
Hey, Molly.
Oh, there she goes. Yeah, is she flashing? Like, yeah, she's helped me organize my Skype a second ago. But
no, that's all right.
Yeah, but anyway, this guy was, it was interesting. Like Susie said, he was on a sport. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like I mean, I don't automatically assume because they're a jock. I mean, it's the cliche jock in high school. I'm not, I'm like, I don't automatically have a negative thing. Although I have a negative thing about the cliche behavior. But people are individuals, so I try to stick with that person's an individual. Yeah. So I'm gonna stick with like, well, that person's cool and that person's an asshole.
Did you when you
swear? I mean, can we swear on here? I mean, I don't want to ruin.
Fuck yeah.
Is this?
Yes.
Oh fuck yeah. Language. Like, yeah, that's. Yeah, no, I'm in New York and.
Dirty words, Fred. Dirty.
I'm always, when you walk around the city, there's just like, I realize how much I swear, and then I'll be in a restaurant, and there's like, and I'm just like, oh yeah, you fucking asshole, and then I turn around, there's like a whole family just like, like little kids, mommy, what's fuck, and I'm like, shit. Mommy, what shit? Oh, damn it! No! Oh man, this is going off the rails. So I end up saying all this dumb stuff, and it's like one of those things where, like your football team, there, you're like, I know how I'll make friends. I'll make fun of that poster above them, and So yeah.
When you went to art school, did you do any more?
What is she doing?
Give you bunny ears.
I need those.
Did you do any more like wrestling or anything, or was it just strictly art stuff when you went to art school?
No, I was just art school is just art school. I mean, I went to Columbus College of Art in Ohio, and it was your typical bunch of introverted artists that like, oh, we have an intramural volleyball team. That's the only sport they had at my school. But everything else is like you're on your own, and I just I went from wrestling. I started doing jazz and ballet because I was like, oh, I'd rather be, instead of wrestling a bunch of other sweaty guys, I wanted to be around beautiful women. And I'm like, well, I'm in a ballet class, everybody's in leotards, and like I'm 17, I'm like, yeah, I like girls, so I end up doing that, and ironically, my dad like going, oh man, I think my kid's queer, because he's like, because I went from wrestling to dance, he's like,
Dad,
oh,
have you ever seen yoga pants before?
I know, that's why I pointed that out to him, and he's paused, and to his credit, he's like, okay, you got a good point. I I was like, okay, there you go. And then I was like, as soon as I had a girlfriend, I was like, I made sure he realized it, and and then he calmed down. But but that was like
different time that was.
Oh yeah. So it was
you did so what I'm curious about with your, because I was just imagining or trying to remember, you did caricatures at like Cedar Park or something like that, right?
Yeah, Cedar Point. Yeah.
Cedar Point. Did you start was that like a job you were doing while you were going to school?
Yeah, that was my summer job. For
cool.
Four summers in a row. I met all the guys that are in NCN now. Dion. So he was my roommate at one point, because they used to have dorms right on the park area, and it was great. It was the frontier. It was awesome. It was like camping all summer, and then your roommates were also your fellow workers, and everybody really bunched together, and it was really an interesting time period, because it's like I met all these really interesting artists, and then they matured, but I really learned a lot about doing caricatures, because we had to do them in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, always in marker. So there was no sketching. It was all just like, look, draw, you're done. And then I learned, but I came out of my shell in college, because I had to like hustle, like I had to talk to people and go, because if I didn't talk to them and go, please sit down with me, I want to make fun of you, and draw you, if I didn't do that, then they weren't going to sit for me. I wasn't going to make any money. So I'm like, okay, I have to get out of this. I have to get over this, and I got to talk to people. And then I started, this is one of the things I wanted to bring up at the NCN. The first year I was there, I go, all these guys have a way of talking people into sitting for them, with the way they hustle in a park. And I thought that would be amazingly entertaining to watch, to see if there was some way to turn that into a, I don't know, not a competition, because I don't like having artists do competitions, it's such a subjective thing, well, why is that guy better than this guy? It's always opinion, and it's always personal. So I'm like, I feel uncomfortable saying competition, but it would be kind of funny in that kind of context, to have people like demonstrating their, I'd see a guy and I talk him in, and but I would draw probably about a couple thousand people every summer, and it was over the course of 4 years, I drew thousands of people, and not to mention all the ones just for practice,
So when you were doing that, so you basically did that to make some money during the summer and everything while you're going to school. But when you were going to school, because I know that you got into doing comics, like you got into inking, like doing like Marvel, DC and stuff like that. But when you were going to school and then you're doing the caricature stuff, did you ever think like, oh, I could become a caricature illustrator? Because it seems like, it seems like it just kind of, you kind of just went.
I was going to be a painter. I was a painting major.
Yeah.
And I was, I wanted to be an illustrator. I just didn't, I thought I was going to illustrate like a Norman Rockwell kind of thing, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be that, I think, or who's my favorite,
Linedecker?
Yeah, no, the guys that I got too many people I know at this point. There's Greg Manchester.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Greg Manchester. And awesome. I thought I was going to be like along those lines, because I'm like, well, I paint in oils. That's my thing. I know how to paint in acrylics. I can paint in gouache. I can paint in watercolor. I learned so many techniques, but then I'm in Ohio, and I'm like, no, there's not a big call for illustration in Ohio, at least you know, from what I could tell. And I wasn't smart enough to network with my teachers, you know, my instructors who would then recommend me to jobs, you know, for people. You know, I didn't know to do that. So I was like, I don't care what you say, you think. I'm going to do my own thing. And, you know, it was, which is really counterproductive to networking, you know. And so I didn't network properly. I didn't think I was going to get any work in Ohio. So I'm like, I'm going to go to New York, where it's going to be even harder. Because my art school was a small, like Columbus wasn't a huge city, but you know, it had an art school, plus it had Ohio State right down the road, and they were pumping out graduates every year. And I'm like, how am I? I've got like at least 10 years of graduates that I will be immediately competing with for jobs. Like as soon as I graduate, you know. And so I didn't think I had a chance, but you know, somehow I thought in my brain, I was almost starving in Columbus because I wasn't getting that much work, and I didn't want to go back to the amusement park because I thought that was going to eventually just suck me in, and I would never do anything else. And I kind of wanted to do a lot of other things. So I got an opportunity to go to New York City, and I'm like, I'll go to New York and I'll make it there. You know, it's not like they don't have like a million art schools pumping out graduates too, you know. So I didn't, you know, I never considered that. I'm just like, no, I'm in from Ohio. I'm different, you know. And it kind of worked because I met a company, and because I knew so many techniques, I knew about art materials and everything. They hired me along, and next thing you know, I was like cleaning the toilets and everything there. It was great, you know. And I was like, you know, the new guy. So, and everybody was 10 years older than me. They painted murals, they did faux finishes, and I was learning the techniques that they had and their system. I was also like the janitor, you know, like you're the new, you know, clean up, you know, wash that stuff down, and then it was, you know, prep the canvases for the real artists, you know, like, oh, okay, you know. So I was gessoing canvases,
like The Apprentice.
At the time it was like you had to staple the canvas onto a wall, and you know, it's like that's an amazing thing in New York City. Like when I got here, I realized how tall some of the buildings are, because you go in and we're on the third floor and they still had almost 20-foot ceilings in this building, and I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing, you know. Like, so I was on a scaffold, you know, stapling up these huge canvases, and then I would gesso them with like a roller, like I was painting a wall, and then and then it would shrink because, you know, but because of the staples it would like be sealed, you know, and then they would have a nice surface to paint on. And I was like, you know, so I learned that was a bad thing to learn, because like my next apartment was there's no way I was going to get the deposit back, because I started I'm gonna start stapling canvases to the wall, and you know, it was because you know, in apartments then you could roll it up afterwards, you know. And am I rambling? I'm rambling, aren't I? I was like, no, keep it tight.
It's fine.
Short, sweet stories, you know, nothing more than 3 sentences. And
no, it's all good.
I will just like go on. So where was I?
No, but it's all right. But I mean, you've done so many things. That's what's cool is like you, because when I first heard of you, you were just like this caricature illustrator guy. And then when I met you, I think the first time that I met you in person, you took me to you used to live in Brooklyn, and you took me into your studio, and you had like these, you know, you have like all these flat files and stuff. You started pulling out a bunch of your work, and then there's all these like awesome like comic and you got oil paintings everywhere, and that's when I realized, oh shit, he does like everything. Like, because I didn't know before that you did comic work, and you're like, it's weird. You're like, it's not weird. It's just awesome. But like, I know you as like this, you know, these awesome gouache caricature type illustration type stuff that you were doing, and then all of a sudden I see this totally different style of yours where you're inking and like there's like this high contrast, and well, you got this comic book style too. That's just awesome. So it's cool. I think that you've got so much in your toolbox, where you can kind of just do anything, because you do fine art as well. You know,
yeah, no, that's the cool thing about trying to do these. You know, like the more you accumulate, you know, life experience and techniques and, you know, all this knowledge, and then, you know, eventually it's just you find opportunities for all of it, you know, and so yeah, you're always on that journey, you know, and I'm in an area where you're always, you know, like, because I didn't plan to do comic books, you know, and
it was just something that came up, and you're like, oh, I could do that.
I'm in a creative, active environment, you know, it's always changing in New York, and like, especially back then, it was more physical. It was like now, you know, you can stay where you're at, and, you know, New York will come to you. You know, like, you don't have to be in New York for these opportunities. But like when I was in New York, once I moved to New York, there wasn't the internet so much, and it was definitely more. It was like early '90s, so I met some guy who was doing comics at Marvel, and he's like, oh, I want to paint. You know, I really want to paint, but I'm having success at comics right now. But if you want to come in, I don't know why you'd want to. I can show your portfolio around, because I wanted to get out of what I was doing, because it was getting the materials I was using were getting more toxic, because I eventually started having to spray, like with lacquer paints, spray furniture and to seal it and stuff, because nobody knew how to work the spray gun, you know. And I'm like, I figured it out. It wasn't that hard, but they also didn't have the ventilation system for this, you know. And it being New York, like I was down the shop I was in, I was actually spraying. I think I was spraying. I know I was in the shop for some reason, but yeah, it was the Wild West, you know, and it was before 9/11, and so like it was like the '93. It was the first. I think that was the first time they tried to bomb the World Trade Center.
Yep, '93.
I was literally like about 8 blocks from it, from the Trade Center, and I heard a boom, you know, because we had the windows open. I think it was. I think it was close to. It was spring or summer or something like that. It was like we had the windows open. It wasn't cold, and there was a silence, and then an explosion of sirens. You know, they're like, holy shit, you know, and we had no idea what happened, you know. And then since nothing structurally real, you know, like there were no deaths, I don't think. Like they'd blown up something in the garage, and everybody's like, whatever, you know, we just passed it off. But like it was the same kind of mentality. Like we were like, oh, we're spraying lacquer paints, and they'd be like, oh, put a fan in the window and we'll just blow it out the back, you know, where nobody's looking. And I'm like, this is terrible, you know, like, so I'm like, I gotta get out of this, you know. And then so this guy that was working at Marvel, he goes, hey, I'll take you in and show you stuff around. I'm like, yes, please, you know, I don't want to die, you know. So so next thing you know, I peppered their offices with samples, and I didn't know how to do comics. I didn't plan to do comics at all. And next thing you know, I'm doing comics, you know. I started getting in Savage Sword of Conan. I'm like, oh, I want to paint covers for that, because there's a Noram. It was one of my favorite artists at the time that did those covers. He did a lot of Savage Sword covers, and I'm like, oh, I like that guy's work. I want to paint those too, you know. And so I really, looking back, I mean, I cringe because I didn't have access to like models and materials that I needed, or the time, because I'm doing this at night during working 60 hours a week at this other job, you know. And so I didn't have a lot of free time, and it was the free time I had was spent trying to make these paintings. in these really unpleasant conditions. Like I didn't have the space for it. I just didn't have the right state of mind to do a good painting. I had the technique, but it wasn't composed right. It wasn't, I didn't have that kind of discipline yet. And it took me another 4 years before I kind of felt like I had that discipline.
Yeah.
And but somehow they gave me work. I was doing like pinups, and I did do like 3 covers altogether for them for Savage Sword, and I was like, cool. That's all. That was my goal. I just wanted to do that in addition to have this regular job.
What did, if you don't mind, what did the comics end up paying for covers at that time?
Oh, I think I got $500 for one of them, and that was for a full painting. Like I.
Yeah, I was, this is a few years ago now, maybe like, maybe 8 years ago or 9 years ago. But I was so excited because I was starting to do like comic type pieces, because I was thinking, oh man, I would love to do covers, for comic books. And you go to the comics store and there's just every week there's issues. Yeah. I was like, this is a booming business, right? There's covers coming out all the time. I'm like, man, I could get into this. And then I would go to the comic conventions and I saw Alex Ross's booth with all of his originals, are like $100,000 or $50,000 for a gouache painting, like this big. And I'm like, man, I got to get into this business, right?
Yeah.
So I submitted a few pieces, didn't hear anything for a long time. And then finally I got an email from Marvel asking if I wanted to do a Spidey cover. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to do a Spider-Man cover? Like, this is like a childhood dream. So I was like all excited and everything. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But I turned it down because they said that they offered me $400.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was like, what? $400?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I'm not a normal comic book artist where like some of these guys just draw all this stuff out of their head, and they're just whatever. Right. And this would be my first one, and I would have to do all this photo referencing and pose someone and try to get the lighting, and it would $400. That's like not even worth like a half a day of work basically. So that's why I was asking. I was curious because it's weird, especially right now with all the Marvel movies are just $1 billion movies.
Exactly.
And
it doesn't trickle down.
You think that the comic book industry would be paying artists way more, but and I recently talked with another comic book artist friend of mine. His name is Menton, he does like Silent Hill and stuff like that. And he was telling me the same thing, like, oh yeah, I get like sometimes $200, $400 for a cover or whatever. And I'm just like, what is?
No, and it hasn't been raised.
It's
since
insane.
The 90s. I was
that's messed
doing
up.
comics between 92 and 95 at Marvel, and I'm like, I think I remember getting like a normal page rate. What are you doing? All right.
Well, that chair is so. Your chair is.
Oh, she's dropping off books. Yeah.
Your chair is really loud. Just.
Oh, sorry.
It squeaks like so crazy.
Yeah, I got a WD-40 that. Yeah, that's my. But
like artists like Alex Ross and James Jean, those guys had. There's no way they were doing covers for that low.
Yeah. I that's what I think, but like,
there's no way.
Most people don't really talk about what they made, but that's.
I just found it shocking. I couldn't believe. Yeah. I just like, this is ridiculous.
But that's why they have the convention, so they can make money off selling the originals and stuff like that. Yeah. So
I couldn't believe I turned down an opportunity to do a cover, but at the same time, I was like, I was kind of pissed off, and I was like, this is insulting, and I just couldn't believe it. It's like, this is ridiculous. I would have thought like for a no-name comic, okay, $400 I guess, but like, man, when I was first starting off in illustration, I took on covers for free sometimes, and but then I earned my way to making more money and being able to take care of my family doing my illustration work, and then Marvel's like this huge thing, and like, I'm like, oh, this is great, and then they say
$400.
Yes. Yes.
It's like,
You're
what?
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. I never got for as many years as I've been doing illustration stuff, I never got any work from Chicago, any Chicago publications, and I always thought that was kind of ironic and weird. Most of my work comes out of New York or everywhere in the world, but like I finally got a call from, I think it was the Chicago Tribune or something like that, and the guy was on the phone. He's like, "Oh man, it's so exciting that you're a local artist here, and we would love to work with you and use you on a regular basis." And I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome." And he's like, "Yeah, we really love your work so much." And he's just talking me up, and he's like, "Dude, like, and the way that you painted this one, and how you did this. So what we want here is we want you to do John McCain, and I think it was Sarah Palin or something, and they wanted me to do all this full on illustration with a background, all this kind of stuff." And I go, "Oh, cool, this is awesome." And then we start talking about rates. This is no joke what he said. He goes, "So what we have in our budget is $110." And I literally did that. I was like laughing. I'm like,
no, seriously.
I was like, you just literally talked to me for 10 minutes, buttering me up, and
I should charge you $110 for that.
Yeah, $110. And where's the $10 coming from? Is that just a little charity on your end there? Thanks for that
Just
$10 extra. Buy yourself a Subway sandwich.
Have fun.
Yeah.
We'll
So I never worked with them.
Yeah. Yeah, they have these really ambitious, because I always found the Observer would do that. They're like, "Oh, we need a caricature done," and I'm like, I hear that, I'm like, okay, that sounds like one face, and and like I can do that, and then when I get the actual thing, it's like it's 6 faces, and I'm like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, but so I want, if I'm not busy, I'm like, okay, I'll do that, because I'm not busy, whatever, but now I'm really busy, so I'm like, I gotta start. I gotta be focused now. So, I mean, the most I'll do now, like I did one that was four people, but it was like I just liked the concept so much that I was like, okay, it's not paying a lot, but I enjoyed the idea, which was okay. I guess I enjoyed the concept. The actual idea was kind of like, well, we want these people that you don't know, a bunch of real estate people, and we're going to put their heads on superhero bodies, so they wanted me basically to copy the latest Avengers poster, and do a parody of that, with Thor and Iron Man. But I was looking at the poster, I'm like, okay, Iron Man, I don't know what's going on, with his stomach, like he got shot up, I guess, in the poster, and everything's dark, and it was all black and gray, and I'm like, this is going to be the dullest looking poster. I'm like, so I went retro, and I started looking for all the Jack Kirby versions of like Thor and Iron Man, and what I could. I couldn't find the Black Widow. She had a different costume depending on who drew her, so I just went with the movie poster for that, and so I ended up having a fun time with it, because I was like, oh, this is old Thor with his, the round circles on his chest piece, and the yellow boots with black. I guess they were wrapped. I don't know. It was a Kirby, like decoration, and then but I had fun with it, and then I put them in the same pose as the Avengers poster, and it was just a lot of fun, and didn't pay what the time I put on in it. So, but I can't do that anymore, because I'm like, I started to do comics again, and now that's like going to consume all my time, and I'm like, I'm going to be just dying in a couple of months. So
you're about to do a bunch of comics right now?
Yeah. It's kind of like that combination of like, all the things in your wheelhouse. Like I ended up I like going to comedy clubs. I like seeing
me too.
What's it? Jimenez that you did the interview. I'm
Joel
like,
Jimenez?
I'd heard him before and I just didn't realize it. But I'm like, oh, he was awesome, So I was like, yeah, that's what you guys were talking about, the comedy. I'm like, yeah, that's right in my wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
So I go to comedy clubs. I like going to bad comedy clubs. I enjoy it when people bomb. I like it when people kill. So I like, so I'm not too discerning on my comedy. I'll go anywhere. And I've been going to comedy clubs since probably the early 90s. I saw Jon Stewart at Caroline's before he was on the Daily Show, right?
Cool.
And he was just doing stand up, and that was the first time I realized like how incredible comedy could be, because my friends at the table, we could not catch our breath. We were laughing that hard at Jon Stewart, and I'm gonna have to throw something at him to make him stop so I can breathe again.
That's awesome.
He was murderous, and and we were just all like, we couldn't. My face hurt from laughing so hard. And I was hooked, on comedy after that. Like I couldn't afford it in the early 90s, but as soon as I could afford it again, I was like, going. And so I've been dabbling in comics for the last 3 years, because one of my past collaborators, Annie Nascenti, she wrote Daredevil for a while after the Frank Miller run. She was an editor at Marvel, and she got me my job at DC when I did Animal Man, and so she lives in my neighborhood now, So she's like, "Hey, you want to hang out? Have a drink?" And we hit it off again, because she's always been awesome. And she goes, "I'm doing this little story for this comic company. Do you want to do? It's 10 pages." I'm like, "Oh, that'd be a nice little project," because I like doing comics, and it just never pays that well, for all the time you put into it. And so I'm like, yeah, it'll be fun working with Annie again, and she's really cool. We can talk about ideas. And over the last probably like 5 years, we've been talking, and it's only the last 2 or so that I've been actually doing comics with her. And so I got in with Ahoy Comics. That's a new company, and we did a story together for them. It was like Edgar Allan Poe kind of stuff. And so we after that we kind of drift apart. She's got projects, I got projects, but then I called the editor up and go, "Hey, you got anything I can do for you?" And he goes, "Well, there's this gig. This writer just pitched a story about a failed comic that is he was big in the 90s, and now he's a has-been, and he's trying to reinvent himself, and he's kind of an asshole. That's the gist of the comic." And I'm like, yeah, okay. He's like 50 something. He used to be he's still a comic, he plays comedy shows, but he's like more of a has-been, and he goes to dive bars and performs comedy. And I go, I'm living that life already. This is exactly what I should be doing. It was
That's awesome.
It really, it was like this really amazing convergence of my life experience and this opportunity coming by, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I think I should do this. And so I've been doing it for the last 5 months.
Is that what that sketch was you shared with me the other night? Night, like that perspective, like above?
Yeah. That's like the opening
that's awesome.
scene. Yeah, it's the establishing shot for. Those are the 7-page. I did 5 7-page stories for backup. They're backup stories, and in the back of the issues of the main book. So it doesn't have its own book, but they just offered to, like, well, would you guys like to do it on a monthly thing? So have its own book, and so, which means 20 pages a month. And I'm like, oh no, that's a lot. But like, this is exactly what I love. It's set in New York, which I love doing. I can go to actual places, take reference, and set the scenes in.
Yeah, that's
in
pretty
New
awesome.
York. And then we can play with social issues, because the writer doesn't shy away from like social commentary, and I think he and I are pretty much on the same page.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect, and I don't think it's in this scale, I guess. There's zines, and then there's people that self-produce comics, and those get maybe like 200 to 500 issues, and they're local, and they can't do they don't have the same audience. It's always local, blah blah blah. They rant,
Yeah.
and they're not as entertaining. Where like our emphasis isn't necessarily to make a political statement, but it's going to be part of how we tell our stories, and by the nature of the character, because he's a horrible person, so and we'll be able to put him next to this other stereotype, and then we bump them together to see what happens, and I think it's going to be fun to do that, and we can make social commentary and political commentary, all of that, and also it should be entertaining as well, because the writer has a sense of humor. Awesome. And I have, he's listens to everything I tell him, like, it doesn't mean he does it, but like he doesn't mind me just throwing stuff out at him, and I don't mind if he doesn't use it, it's not going to be a problem, like, oh, you just used my idea. I don't have that. I don't have a problem with that. It's just like, nah, I thought it was a good idea, but that's why I told you. But if it doesn't work with what you already established, I'm fine with that. And like I let him be the writer, and I just like my responsibility is to make the art look interesting. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, because I'm so in the head of this character, and the idea, or the environment is more what I know, and so yeah,
No, it sounds awesome, man. I actually have a couple questions for you from people that like sent in audio questions.
Okay.
But I have to make an announcement real quick for my listeners. I came up with this thing. Adobe is sort of a sponsor of this podcast, and they came up with this cool thing of giving away free 1-year subscriptions to the Adobe Creative Cloud. And I can come up with any ways I want to give these out to listeners. So I came up with this thing where during the podcast, I ask a certain question. So you have to have watched a certain episode and know what, and try to figure out what the answer is. And if you're the first one to write me that answer, email me at facethetruthpodcast at gmail.com. You will win a 1-year subscription to Adobe. So last episode, I asked a question, and not one of you wrote in. Now, either you're not actually listening, and I'm wasting my fucking time doing this podcast, or you're lazy, or I don't know what it is. But I'm going to repeat the same question from last week, so I'm nixing the one with Paul Rooston. You can't call in anymore on that. And so the question is, in a certain episode, in a certain episode of my podcast, a certain person called in and left a fun message for my guest. Who is the person that did that, and what episode was it, and who was my guest that episode? Answer that question, and you get 1 free year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud. Don't be idiots. It's 1 free year. It's $50 a month. Now, I'm giving you this opportunity. Don't blow it. So anyway, like I said, I do have some questions for you, which
glad I didn't say anything bad about Adobe. I was gonna shit all over Strathmore, but I was like,
yeah, Strathmore. Well, we can do that, no problem. So let me see. Let me find the first question here. So here's the first one. So this is the first question for you.
Okay.
Hola, Seiler, ¿cómo estás? Un gusto saludarte desde acá, desde Venezuela. Saludos también a Frick. Saludos desde acá, desde Venezuela, siguiendo su trabajo. Y mi pregunta es la siguiente: ¿qué es lo que más le motiva para hacer las ilustraciones o las pinturas que él hace? Su trabajo de verdad es increíble y lo seguimos desde acá, desde Venezuela. Un saludo a ambos.
So did you get that?
Love the food. I don't know. Sorry.
No, this is from Hire, and his question is, hello, Seiler, how are you? I'd like to say hello to you from Venezuela, also to Fred. I'm still working from Venezuela, and my question is, what motivates you the most to do illustrations that you do? His work is really incredible. Greetings to you both. So that's what.
Well, hello, and let's see, what motivates me? Well, there's two answers to that. There's the one where if it's a good concept, and I really, and somebody comes up with an opportunity where I can do something that looks amazing, that I would be glad to put in my portfolio. There's that, and then there's also, I live in New York City where the rent's really high, so if they have money, I'm like, that totally motivates me.
You're very motivated.
Yeah, I'm like, shit, the rent's coming up, so I really, it's kind of like the practical answer is like mostly it's money at this point, and that's why I'm leaning more towards doing fine art, because I don't have somebody going, why don't you make it more like this and do it in this format, and that gives you a little bit more freedom to make the kind of art that you want, and so I like that, and then but it also doesn't pay the rent, like I don't sell that many paintings, in the fine art world, because nobody knows who I am in that world. I might as well be like just starting out again. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, when you're making a living as an artist doing illustration or whatever, yeah, like for me, I have rent, yeah. I have a wife, and I have 3 daughters, and everything else, bills and everything. That's all the motivation that you need, really. Especially if you want to remain being an artist, if that's what you want to do, you just got to, I mean, obviously, like I like to do my own art for myself, and I'm very highly motivated to create art on my own, but that doesn't really pay the bills, so yeah. I rarely get to do what I really want to do. But I'm not, complaining, because I still get to make a living doing art for now anyway, so it's good.
Exactly. Yeah, so, I try to take advantage of the fact that I am an artist, and I go like, yeah. No, I'm good. I have these skills I'm good at that, and I get to work at home, and exactly. I enjoy all the other things around doing the art, Mm-hmm. So I appreciate almost all the art that I do, because I get to continue to have this life, and I'm like, yeah. I live in a really inspirational city. Like some people hate it, some people love it. I tend to be on the love side, because I've managed to find those slots that make it like fun and enjoyable and inspires me. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember Lars, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So Lars has a message for you as well. So I'll play Lars.
Okay.
So hey, Fred Harper, I hope you're doing well, man. And I really enjoy these podcasts, and I've been having a good time with it. And I'm actually going home now, and I'm getting my Cintiq that I won from one of the last ones we did with Deborah. So anyway, it's awesome. But anyway, I have a question for you, Fred. first of all, what was the paper that you guys, what do you use when you do your gouache paintings? And is there any way to refreshen the gouache paints once they harden up? My white paint, for some reason, got dried up on me, and it constantly does that a lot. So I didn't know if there was something that you could do to kind of freshen that up. But anyway, try to do a painting of you actually in the gouache with the gouache brush in Procreate. So I had actually a lot of plans to actually paint in gouache, and I ran out of time. So I just had a couple of days to do this. But anyway, those are my questions with the gouache and what paper you use. And yeah, man, and one more thing, basically, what was that restaurant that we went to when we were up in Ohio? And we went to an Italian place, or some kind of like monster, a gangster place or something. It was like underneath, it was like you had to be invited to get in there. It was probably some kind of gimmick, but anyway, we had a good time, and that convention was awesome. But it's been too long since I've seen you, and hope you're doing well.
Yes.
Talk to you later. Thanks, man.
Well, thanks, Lars. Let's see. I finally got an iPad and did the Procreate thing. And I got the gouache brushes, of course, and I find that they're nothing like the gouache that I use to paint with, but they are. But I do like the textures, the effect that they have. But I'm still figuring out Procreate. You know,
gouache can be tricky if you don't. You know, you gotta paint with it. You don't just try once. You gotta work with it for a while.
Yeah. And I'm like so one of the principles I go by at this point when I buy paint and materials, like the paper I like to use is right now it's a hot press. I think it's Fabriano extra white. And that you buy it in sheets, and it should be, if you're getting the right one, it's about $17 a sheet, and I get three. I can cut it down to 3 pages that are manageable that I can scan. I work to the size of my scanner. It's a 12 by 18 inch scanner. And I still paint fairly traditionally, but then I tweak a lot of stuff in Photoshop at this point. And but yeah, the gouache, fixing white gouache, if it's dried in a tube, I just throw it out. But
I think he means like on his plate or whatever he's mixing paint on.
Yeah, I got one of those wet palettes that you know.
The Stay Wet or whatever?
Yeah, it's got the sponge underneath. And I use that, and then, but the gouache only lasts about maybe a week, and then it starts to get slimy, and at least the gouache I have. But basically my principle of buying art materials is get the most expensive ones you can get, because those will perform the best for you, and if you're trying to figure it out, you don't want to be struggling with like inferior paint on top of.
Yeah, don't get that student grade shit. That's so bad. It's
because you can always, once you paint the white gouache down on your painting, it still lifts back up. If you get the right. I used to. So that's why I was going to shit on Strathmore. They're not sponsored, right? Okay.
No.
So I used to buy Strathmore 500 series vellum or plate Bristol, and it was the most amazing surface to paint on. And then they got bought, I guess, by Grumbacher or something. Like another company bought Strathmore, and within a few months, the quality of everything. Well, they quit putting out 500, series 500. So I went to 400, which was okay. And then I would buy a whole pack at a time, like 25 sheets would be like almost $500, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get that. And I bought like $500 worth of Strathmore paper, and, because I bought 2 packs, and I was like, all right, this is the shit. I'm gonna be busy. I'm gonna do really well. And then it was all toilet paper that I bought, apparently, because it became more it became more absorbent. I would be able to put a wash of wash across the paper. Like I would flood the paper, and I'd be able, like, kind of like watercolor. You flood it with water, and then you could paint into it with some gouache, and you get these nice like smooth transitions and stuff. And this new, this bad batch that I bought, that I paid $500 for, was like, I did that, and it was all splotchy, and it wasn't smooth at all, and it was such a struggle to get. Yeah, that was I don't know what that one was, but anyway, it was it was such a struggle to paint with it. It made me take like extra, like it almost doubled the time it took to make a painting.
Let's officially make it so that Strathmore will never be a sponsor of mine, and just tell them, for everybody's pleasure, fuck you, Strathmore.
Yeah, fuck off, Strathmore. Yeah, holy shit. So yeah. I'm a Kingston man.
I was talking with Victor Huaz about that, and I think the same thing happened to him. Of course, he was like,
yeah, and he pays huge. Like,
it's like you're used to this thing. You've developed a style and everything, and then it's just like it's. So yeah, that's so stupid. What restaurant was Lars talking about? Is he talking about when we were at the convention in Ohio? And I think it's called Olive Garden, dude.
I don't remember. I like that was so long ago, but I vaguely remember.
That was like 2008 or 2009.
At least, yeah. That was
a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a lifetime ago. Yeah, so I've had 3 careers since then.
So I have one last question for you. This is from William Feisterman. And this is a good question, and he's got a great voice too, by the way.
All right. I've never actually heard him talk.
Hi, Jace. This is William Feasterman. We've met a couple times in Chicago and later in Portland, Oregon, where I'm from. I have a question for Fred Harper. What is it like to have a wife or partner who is also a very well-known artist? Do you two ever fight over art supplies? Do you share your art materials? Are there ever any ego issues? My wife isn't an artist, but she's a very bright, successful person, and I found that being married to someone like that has many rewards. But I'm an artist who has never been married or attached to another very talented artist, so I was wondering, how does that all work for you two?
Man, that's awesome. Thank you, William. No, because I'm friends with him on Facebook a lot, and we're all commenting, and I didn't know how to even pronounce his name correctly.
Feasterman.
Yeah, Feasterman. Yeah. And so I just had a show in Portland of my fine art stuff at Brassworks Gallery, and he's like, oh, I live right around the corner, or he goes into that area a lot, and I'm like, oh, I have no idea. I've never been to Portland, and so yeah, he said he checked out my show, and
cool.
It was really nice of him, and I thought that was really cool. And but yeah, so having a partner that is more famous than you is actually pretty awesome, because it opens, we get invited to all kinds of cool parties. and the only time we've ever fought over art supplies is I think I used a nice brush that she had because I thought it was one of mine, and then she wasn't angry, she was just disappointed, because and we've been together like for 15 years, so we never really, and we don't fight, we just don't.
Yeah.
We don't have any we have really intense discussions about whatever is happening in politics of the day or social issues, and usually it's her telling me stuff and I'm listening, it's because she's so up on all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just have to now I'm realizing I have to be more careful about what I say in public, so that she doesn't get, because she, being a woman in the media, like what I can say stupid stuff and get away with it because I'm a guy, and but if she said the same stupid thing I say, like, the amount of anger and hate that she would get, so I'm like, I try not to say much about her, and I think that's probably why it worked, because she doesn't talk about me endlessly to anybody, and I don't talk about her, and well, I talk to my friends about her all the time because I'm so proud of her. But like I when I do interviews and stuff like that, I usually don't go on and on and on about her because I don't want to say the wrong thing that is going to end up like coming back to bite her in the ass. She's when she did the she just had the video come out with the Alexandra Cortez about the Green New Deal, and and it was really interesting. I like because everybody involved with that project, they did all their homework, they studied all the issues. They're like, what is the problem? How do you address that? What are the statistics that we're getting? And so they did all that, and then the trick was to try to condense so much information into this little video that still ended up being 7 minutes long. And it was like they shoot for like 3 to 4 minutes when they do a video, and it was fascinating to hear. I'm like, this is the benefit of being an artist again. Like I work at home. They shot the video in our studio, and I got to talk to everybody involved and got all this extra information, and but like because she put it out, she put the video out, like Alexandra already gets tons of hate because she's the main target of the Green New Deal. Like if you want to slam anything about climate change, you point at her and whatever, right? And or if you want to support it, you point to her and go right on, right? But being a woman, it seems amplified from what I've been able to see, because she's done that. She's tweeted things on Twitter that another guy. She's just retweeting what a guy wrote on Twitter, and he might get 2 comments, and then she tweets it, and she gets like 1,000 people that say you should die and whatever, and it's like, holy shit, like
it's ridiculous.
The amount of hate, it's amplified when it's a woman, and just from and all those, and she knows all these really smart women as well, and they compare notes, like they see the trend, if they do it, they get shot too, and
it's so stupid.
It's amazing, like what I could get away. I don't have an audience either. Like, Molly has 100,000 followers, on Twitter. Like I have 2 maybe.
I hardly ever use Twitter. I'm not really a big Twitter person.
Yeah, I read it. Yeah.
I started it late in the game, and I don't really, but that's interesting. For me, William, my wife's an oil painter as well. She's a photographer. She's a poet. We don't really have any kind of competition. She doesn't do it professionally for a living. She does it because she just loves drawing and painting. And she's going to school right now to be a real estate agent. But mostly she's the best mom in the world, hands down. Like and I'm not just saying that, but she's just an amazing mom. And she spends time teaching my littlest daughter how to paint right now. She's only a year and a half, and she's already getting into painting and music and stuff. But we don't have competition between each other. It's more encouragement. Like I don't ever, when she's painting, I don't ever go up to her and go, well, I would do it this way. I don't do that. It's her own painting. She's got her own style, her own technique. For example, she's insanely messy when she paints. There's no order. Her palette is just covered in paint. She never cleans it up. It's just a mess. It's chaotic. And she always has paint in her hair, on her face, everywhere. When I paint, I'm super organized. I have clean palette. Everything's organized. I pre-plan my drawing and then I transfer it onto the canvas. She doesn't do that. She just goes right into the canvas, and sometimes she'll start over again. So we have completely different approaches, but it's mostly just encouragement, and I don't say anything unless she asks me, "What do you think?"
Yeah, that's approach.
And but she does the opposite. I don't ask her, and she'll come up to me. She go, "That eye looks funny." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." So we kind of have like a little bit different. And my brushes are my brushes. Her brushes are her brushes. We don't mix our brushes. I'm very particular about my brushes too. Like nobody touches them. But she's got her own brushes, and she's got her own palette and her own everything else. She actually hasn't gotten to do too much art since we had the baby. So she's been doing a little bit of digital art, but anyways, thank you for the questions, guys. We have one more segment here before we go. A bunch of fans did artwork of Fred, and so I want to show Fred right now what you guys did. So let me know if you see this, Fred. All right, so the first one here is by Dan McConnell.
That's awesome. See, that's how I picture myself. That's it.
Yeah, and it says not related to Ben, as far as I know.
Yes. No. That's fun, man. Oh, you've got my chest hair coming out of there.
So that's awesome.
Very cool.
Okay, so number 2 is by Ray Shipman.
All right. Oh, nice. That's some hair too.
Yeah, you always got that nice Fabio.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I usually get that, and then I'm like, after the hair, it falls apart really fast. It goes right into like, who's that guy that's the clown? Yeah.
So the next one is number 3 is by Jack Lemonnier. I really like this drawing style in this one. It's a pencil drawing.
Oh yeah, that's kind of a Robert Crumb kind of look. It has for some reason that it's like Robert Crumb kind of a feel to it.
Yeah.
The way the cross hatching is, and it's a very striking portrait.
Yeah, that's a very aggressive nose.
Yeah. Oh man, I've had some really back at Cedar Point. One guy that eventually became my roommate. He was for one, he was kind of, I guess looking back, he was probably kind of creepy because he was 10 years older than everybody else that worked there. Everybody was like 18 or 19, and he was like in his 30s. Yeah. So he'd been doing caricatures a long time, and he was a little angry. I was like the new guy, and so he's busting my balls. So he did my nose. He made it my nostrils so big that he drew my eyes inside my nostril. like he just like it was like as if my nostrils had become these tunnels, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a result of your life experience and you've done lots of drugs or what, but I don't think he did a lot of drugs, but he's just a really creative person, actually, is what I found out. And we became really good friends after that. I was like, man, you just totally destroyed anything that looked like me, and but everybody knew it was me, which was really awesome. So
that is awesome. The next one, number 4, is by Debbie Fetcher.
There, got it. Oh, right. Wow, I like the colors in that one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I was like, when I sent those pictures, I was like, these are dramatic pictures. I was trying to give like good light source pictures, and then the cleanest, the clearest pictures I have, and I just don't take pictures of myself, and and most pictures that I have of me are like flash pictures, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to tell what I look like, because I hate working from photographs that don't have a clear light source.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to help people out with that, because that picture had a good light source.
Oh yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah.
The next one is number 5 is by Michael Mestianek.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Wow,
Mestianek.
that's nice. Nice, and it's digital, but it's still chunky. I like that.
It's cool.
That's a very, very good, very strong. See, it's the light source helps make a really strong image, I think.
It's very graphic. I like it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The next one, number 6, is by Jasper Andres.
That's awesome. Wow. Very cool.
You're not coming today, so you're free.
Okay. Thank you. I was running out of time on my, Molly was going to need to come in next, but she said her people canceled, so.
Oh, okay.
No hurry now for me. It's not that urgent, but this guy is awesome. Wow. That looks like it's digital too, but it has a really nice gessoed background kind of feel to it.
Totally.
And, really interesting exaggeration. That's awesome.
Yep. Number 7 is by Asmadi Abdullah.
Yeah, there you go. That looks like a charcoal. That's a digital one too, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
That's very cool. It's always interesting. You just since I see myself in the mirror every time, and then I go, that's why I don't take pictures of me.
No, nonsense.
Yes.
So number 8 is done by Jared Hobson. This one is awesome. Hilarious, man.
That's my self-image. Yeah, that's my. That's intense, man. It's what I've always found when people will push they push and pull and the forehead and the nose coming forward and the underbite, and I've tried to do that sometimes, and I'm like, it doesn't work with the style that I do, and I think that's really intense, though. I really appreciate that.
So everyone's getting a taste of what it sounds like to live in New York.
Yeah, see? Oh my gosh, man, you should have seen it when they I was here when the Occupy Wall Street was happening, and 2 blocks away from me.
A couple blocks from there, yeah.
Yeah, and man, it was because the cops would harass them, and at 2 or 3 in the morning, they would just, or maybe 4 in the morning, they would just I guess, I don't know if it was the cops or the fire department, they would just run around, they'd circle the park with their sirens on, and it just to harass them, but it was harassing us too. I'm like, hey,
trying to sleep here.
Yeah,
it's kind of. So the next one is by Terry Beveridge. And they told me that they did this one with a pen, and then colored it digitally, but they had to color it with a mouse, so it was really.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's got a cool look to it.
It does, yeah. That's kind of almost like a comic book kind of coloring approach.
Yeah, I like it.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. This next one is by Lars Eric Robinson, number 10.
Oh, right on. Very, he's got some good colors going on there. I remember when he was first starting, trying to figure out, how to approach color and stuff. And I think he took one of your courses, one of your schoolism courses, and he just looked like he learned everything overnight. All of a sudden, he just was a different person after he took one of your classes.
Yeah, he did pretty good.
Yeah. No, it's
that's because I kicked his ass.
Yeah, I believe it. You could tell because it worked. He changed.
Yeah. No,
No,
he's doing good
right
stuff.
on, Lars. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's part of the cool fan club because he bought one of my coffee mugs
Oh yeah.
to support the podcast. So thanks, Lars.
Yeah. Drink up.
Yeah. And number 11 is by Kiko Yamada, and I love this one.
Oh yeah! Wow! Right on. Oh, that is so perfect.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's really.
This
got
is
the
like,
horns. Yeah.
oh, dude,
Yeah.
it's just like the style
Next
and
Halloween costume ready. That's me.
yeah, it's this one. I literally like just started laughing when I opened this.
Oh my gosh! I'm glad you sent these to me. So I'm like, you're gonna have to send those to me. I'm like, oh yeah, I already have them. So,
yeah, this is
very cool.
this could be like a T-shirt or like a, this is just iconic. I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
yes,
good.
yeah. And the guy that took the photo that's from is yeah, he's like his name was Seth Kushner. Seth. I think his name was Kushner. But he I mean, he died a few years ago. But he was taking pictures of all these artists at the time. He came over to take a picture of Molly, and then so he's like, "Well, I'll take a picture of you too," and, because he didn't know who I was because I hadn't been doing comics for a long time. But like, yeah, I'm like, well, if you can make anything good with this, good luck. And I just started my tattoo from Paul Booth, and it wasn't even finished. So, but yeah, that was a while ago. But I haven't really changed my look other than finishing the tattoo. So
Yeah. No,
I gotta get horns though.
Yeah, you gotta get the horns added there.
I gotta get the horns. Yeah.
So the next one is number 12 by Dominic Zeilinger.
Oh, nice. There we go. I like the concept. Very good.
Yeah, you like tentacles.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like it's like there's certain universal type like textures and shapes that I think people that resonate with people, like not you, I guess not universally, but sort of universally. What's kind of more less universally, but like more solar system-y. Yeah, it was like tentacles for me are kind of like what I think that's what resonates with like the Geiger art, the Alien movies, that type of style.
Totally.
And I felt like the tentacles always did that. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Number 13 is by Jeff Stahl, and there's two of them
he's
because
awesome.
There's like a close-up as well. So there's two. There's the full thing and then a close-up. But yeah, he did an awesome job, man. I love the texture.
Yeah, his work. I was following him on Instagram for a long time, and I'm just like, why doesn't everybody know his work? Like I'm very honored. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's really good.
Because he's always he mostly does the digital stuff, right? And does he do his own brushes or does he make his own brushes?
I don't know. I'd like to know what brushes these are because they're really cool looking.
Yeah,
very nice texture. The one thing I like about his work too is he's normally I'm not a fan of sharp edges and I'm more because it's when you're painting more realistic or just painting in general, like I tend to like try to paint in a more realistic way where there's not a lot of hard edges.
Yeah.
But he does it in a way that is illustrative and it's totally his style. Like even how he did the smile line above your mouth, how it's just very
he just carves it out and it works.
Yeah. It's a really really cool style. I like it a lot. Did you see the close up?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's
very very nice.
So intense. Yeah, it's like that texture is really beautiful that they put in there.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. He totally nailed your likeness.
Yeah, I got my coffee stained teeth and psychotic eye. I'm noticing that eye's getting bigger, and I see my dad who's in his 70s, and he's got the one eye that's larger than the other eye, and
You're like, oh no,
I'm
it's
like,
happening.
oh, that's what I'm gonna look like, you know. And so, so yeah, it's like, look at your parents, and they're like, yeah, see how you can kind of morph into that, you know, like, oh, I look just like him, shit. No
That's
offense,
funny.
Dad. Yeah,
It's happening to me too.
Yes.
My daughter's like, you're starting to look just like Grandpa. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Oh no. Well, your daughters are doing their job. They're giving you a reality check. Yes.
So next one is number 14 is Dustin Clark. It's like a round circle image.
That's really pretty. Yeah. Very iconic too. It's really intense.
It's interesting how different this one is. The approach, the exaggeration and the style, but it still captures you.
Absolutely.
That's what I like about Caricature.
You get that character. You get the character right, and you can really play with it. You know.
Yeah.
It's really, that's really awesome.
Very nice. So the next one is 15 by Big Al Lopez.
All right, Big Al. All right. There we go. Caricature style. Yeah, that's really. I love the colors. That's awesome. I like throwing purples and blues in there with skin tones is what I like when I like using the blue purples and the blues with blue greens with black people's skin. It's like you can do. Their skin is so wonderful. It's like you can put so much color in it. It's like totally works, you know. Because like it's funny because like this guy in college, you know, he my instructor's favorite story is about this. This black kid who would come in and he's like, I'm going to do black people in my illustration. They're kind of portraits, and he would only use brown and black and some yellow ochre or something, and they were kind of dull color wise, and he tried to help the guy, and he goes, look, you know, I think if you put in some colors that are not brown that'll complement that, you know, it might work. And he started doing that, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing, you know, and I guess he went on to have a pretty good illustration career, you know, and I was just like, oh, you know, I didn't have to do that, and I learned from just that story. You know, so you put in these purples and stuff.
That's one thing that we didn't really bring up yet, but like at the caricature conventions, you always win like best color technique and stuff. But your use of color is awesome because you definitely, you know, it's not, you know, caricature and not just caricature, because you do way more than that, but we're talking about caricature right now. But caricature isn't just about exaggerating the form and the shape and the expression, but like I like how you push and exaggerate color, and you do it in such a impactful way. And
it's awesome. use all your tools.
I always love how much you push it. It's cool. So this next one, number 16, is by Salah Kudari.
I'm glad you're saying everybody's name.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh sometimes. Wow, that's a nice one. I like there's my Stedman man. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. That's very Stedman like.
Yeah, very good ink. I love it.
That's very cool. It's really cool because you're kind of like lost in there, but then when you find you're totally just there.
Right.
Like it's very very awesome style. I love it.
Hitting all the points, and that represents exactly how I felt when I woke up this morning. So yes.
And again, one eye bigger than the other.
Yep. No, it's funny because I pick up on that on everybody I talk to, because drawing so many faces, I'm always, you know, I like, you probably do it too. You study faces so much more. You like when you're looking at somebody, you're not just looking at them. You're noticing details, and I casually will pick up like details on like, oh, that eye's a little larger than the other one, and this one's, and it's also lower, or you know, like I'm noticing the eyebrows are different, and that's why I hate looking at myself, because I'm like, how do I even see straight? I shouldn't be able to drive a car. My eyes are so uneven, like that. I feel it's so weird to see, when you notice those things, and like, well, everybody seems to be getting along, and they're avoiding all the walls, and they're walking through the doors. So yeah, I think it works.
Something's working.
Yeah,
that's funny. So number 17 is by Adita Bahasar.
Oh my. Very cool. That's lovely.
The colors are pretty nice as well.
My hair is so soft too. I gotta find out who I talk to about like conditioning. Yeah. So.
Dude, you definitely need to W40 that chair, dude.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll try not to move. Not to move. I'm like, yes.
I'm bleeding out of my ears right now.
You're welcome. You heard it here first. This is that'll be the next question. Like, why were my ears bleeding on the last podcast? And,
that will be the next one. So this number 18 is by Angela Bell.
Nice. You got the light source happening there. Nice color scheme. That's beautiful. That's nice.
That's cool.
Are these all students of yours now? Or are they students?
No, like I know a few of them just throughout the years, but a lot of the people I think are just fans of the podcast or of my work, your work.
Very cool.
So sometimes there's a few people that submit drawings every time, and there's some people that never have.
Yeah.
So it's always
good. Like you never know who's going to be on your program. So
Yeah, it's fun.
So
I think there's one more on that email, and it's 19 by Terry Wolfinger. It's like a drawing.
Yes. Yeah.
Very nice.
That's some nice cross hatching. See, it's over here on my other screen. And
okay.
That's why I'm always looking this way now.
That's fine.
Look at this ear. Wait, no, you can't. Okay. Well, you're out of luck. It's a great ear. Yeah, that's my like winking ear. I say hello. That's my break the ice ear. I've had a lot of coffee this morning. I think. Right?
Yeah, you like your coffee.
Oh yeah, I've had 3 espresso morning so far. Yeah.
But this is a nice drawing though.
It is. I love great cross hatching technique. The danger of doing a lot of like that kind of cross hatching with that technique is you can have those hard edges that you were talking about that you don't like, and she's still managing like in the jaw, along the jaw, and losing that edge between the hair and the neck, and you're finding those soft spots, So
totally,
really nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. I think it starts with number 20 by Karen Kroplinski, and I believe she said this one was done in oils.
Really? Wow. Man, that's some oils. That looks small.
I have no idea.
Give you a dimension? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she did, but I'm not remembering offhand. I will check real quick.
See some scratches in there. I'm just going by the canvas size. I don't know. It seems like an 8x10 sort of.
18 by 24. It says.
Wow. Okay.
So.
Yeah. Is it? I can't tell what it's like. Wow, it's a fascinating technique to look at.
I mean, to be honest, like I thought it was digital when I first saw it.
Right.
So I'm not, I'd have to see like a close up to really understand.
Because it's kind of hard to take a photograph.
Yeah.
She probably had to take a photograph of the image, and it's probably not scanned. If it's oils, chances are it's still wet. You don't want to throw that on your scanner.
Yeah. So the next one is 21 by Ryan Biddle. And you got some more tentacle action going on.
I'm for it. Let's do that. Yeah, see? That's why like my whole back is tentacles. And
I like that's right. I like how the hair is turning into the tentacles.
Absolutely. Because that's kind of like the concept I had when I got my back tattoo. Is I had my whole back tattooed. That was my first tattoo. My whole back. And that was the plan. It was a metaphor for my hair. So like eventually the hair falls out, and you start like it looks ridiculous to have long hair at a certain point. So I'm like, I'll probably be shaving my head when I'm older, and then like my tentacles on my back will represent where my hair used to be, and it was originally inspired by a Robert Mapplethorpe photograph of it was like this black guy that was with a shaved head, and he had draped an octopus over his head, and a metaphor for dreadlocks. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then I saw that picture, and then I got out of the shower that day, and my hair was wrapped around my arms and shoulder, because it was like in these long locks of wetness, and it was just like, it was just wrapped around my body at that point, and I was like, oh, that would make a cool shape on my shoulder. And then I'm like, oh, tattoo, that's what I wanted.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's so
and weird
that,
at the same time.
Yeah, it's just an interesting that Ryan really kind of nailed the whole concept on why I have that back tattoo.
That's funny. Yeah. So number 22 is by Juan Gastelum.
All right. Oh, it made me look pretty. Thank you. I got this.
You're
very
so pretty.
blue. I'm ghostly. That is very ghostly. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Number 23 is by Fernando Mendez.
Oh man, that's beautiful too. These are also nice.
Yeah, very cool.
I feel like I'm at the Caricature convention. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's funny that they don't have to do caricatures. Like, I just, anybody can do any kind of thing they want. But I really love the idea of doing this, because it just, it gives the guests something kind of fun.
I'm waiting for a musician to just go, hey, I have the song inspired by that person or something. And then we'll have to. Okay, it's 30 minutes long, but no.
So the last one is number 24 is by Greg Dolan.
Right on. Okay.
Which I think you've met him before. I've met him
before.
Familiar.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
He's gone to a lot of the conventions.
Okay.
I think I met him years ago.
Yeah, everybody's
nice guy.
Gone digital these days. It's very interesting. I just exploring the digital world myself a little bit, and I'm familiar with it enough to get by. Like, if I have to fix something, but I still prefer to paint it physically. Everybody's really getting a handle on the color scheme. Is really nice. It really allows you to keep your colors in check. Because if you paint like me initially, I paint more like Philip Burke. I'm like, I'm just gonna use this color right out of the tube. Yellow is my highlight, and blues are my darks. And that's kind of how I used color at that point. And but yeah, these are beautiful. Wow, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, let me see if I can switch back. If it doesn't work, I'll just call and try it again.
Okay.
So just let me know if we're back to normal, or if is it still gray?
Yes.
All right, let me call you back real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, something's weird with the connection. So, anyways, we're back after looking at the drawings, and something's really strange with Fred's voice right now. Yes. It's okay.
I'm hungry. If I try to do it on purpose, maybe it'll self-correct.
I don't know what's going on, but anyways, I was saying that, or I was just asking Fred. I had to start over again, but just if he was working on anything new or what's been going on. But you said that you were working on some comic stuff.
Yeah, that's primarily what I'm doing. That's
mostly
right now.
What you're doing.
Yeah, it's going to consume me for the next probably 5 to 6 months.
Wow.
The first issue of Snelson, the comedian character that I'm doing for Ahoy Comics, is going to be in #Danger. It just came out this last week in the comic book stores. it's a small company, so you probably have to ask for it. Like, I don't think they'll just have it, you know. So
Okay.
But we're it's just starting. You know?
Sorry, I'm laughing just because you sound so crazy right now.
I match my pictures. Yes.
People are probably.
It's those caricatures. I'm becoming. My voice is changing. I'm going to start like distorting. My apartment is going to become 3 miles long.
This is ridiculous. People are going to be like, "What the hell? What's going on here?" Hey. You know what? With that, I think I'm going to say it's been a great talking to you, man. And don't hang up because we'll talk again after I hit stop. But thanks so much for being on this, dude. It was a great talk. And I love all the stories, man. I think people are really going to dig it. So, and I can't wait to go to New York again soon. We got to hang out.
Definitely. Yeah. I got some comedy clubs to show you.
Oh, let's do it for sure, man. All right. Thanks, man. Love you so much.
Take care. I love you.